Hello, I am making this video for the Modding 101 server. I want to do a bit of an overview for Textools 3.0. However, there are a couple of videos already available made by Cell that have a little short introduction to some of the most important features. So I'm going to share those videos in the description. If you haven't seen them, I recommend that you watch them either before or after this video is fine, but I think that it contains really pertinent information if both if you're starting to use Textools for the first time and if you are using it now as that Dawntrail is out and you're not familiar with the new layout and everything. I think in both cases it's very helpful. So for this video, I mostly want to focus on the different things that our menu tabs have and can do. But I just want to mention real quick the main changes that we have for text tools. The first one, most important, being text tools no longer rewrites your game files. So there's also no need to have a copy of your game exclusively to mod or make mods. So that's first a great upgrade already. But also you can open Penumbra mod packs with text tools, and you can make Penumbra mod packs with text tools. So that really the main, I think we can say that the main difference of 3.0 is that now Textools is only meant to be used as or mainly used, I should say, as a mod maker program, right? So it's going to have some of those differences. Like you can see now we have a save button, and like any other software where you create something like Photoshop, let's say, you're going to have to be saving your changes every now and then to make sure that they stay as they are. And additional to that, you will be able to even like put files directly into Penumbra if Penumbra is available. If you are, let's say that Penumbra is not working at the moment, you can just turn the safe mode into unsafe mode, and that means that any changes that you make in Textools will now replace your game files. But this is like basically an option for either people that cannot make the change to Penumbra for whatever reason, or if Penumbra is not available. Usually, and most of the time, we will want to have safe mode, not rewrite our game files, and instead use transactions, which Cell also covers in his video. But the main thing that you're going to do is every time that you use Textools, you're going to begin a transaction. And when you begin a transaction, it will ask you, like, what do you want to do with this? Put it in the game files, put it in the folder tree, which is kind of the same way that Penumbra works, like just making a little copy of the existing file, so that way you're not rewriting everything. Or it can just, whatever you did is just going to turn it into a TTMP modpack or a PNP modpack, which is great. And if it's maybe like just some loose textures or something like that, you can directly just add it to Penumbra, or to your Penumbra mod folder to install it there already. So very helpful. And but I'm not going to really go over all of the details of transactions right now. I just want you to be aware of that, this being like probably the most important change now for 3.0. And I think there are other things that, especially if you're an experienced user, you're going to get a lot of um, where you will be able to take a lot of advantage for making mods. But right now, I am only just going to first go over the tabs and the things that the different menu sections do. Firstly, we have our manage mod list, which will let you look at everything that you have installed. So I installed a mod pack, and it's showing it to me here first separated. Like, this is your mod pack that you installed, and it tells me like everything that it includes. But at the same time, it's going to separate it into, okay, so you changed these in the face section, this in the hair section. And you will be able to even be like, you know what? I actually didn't want this file for whatever reason. So I'm going to delete it. Right? So it gives you a little bit of more freedom on certain things, even from this little menu here. Now, when you create a mod pack, you would have the advance from items from files. If you use Textools before, you might think that this is very different, but it is basically what we knew as the basic mod pack is the from files. The standard mod pack, the standard mod pack is from items, and the advanced mod pack is, the one with the many different options and metadata. That I will make a video for that specifically sometime later. Then you have the option of import mod packs. You cannot do this unless you have open up a transaction, right? And if you are having something going on strangely, or maybe you want to access the vanilla version of whatever you modded, you can disable or enable the mods. The project manager is a bit of a power tool. I am not going to really explain it because Cell already does in another video, and it covers much of the technical stuff. But basically, this is to use other programs, and any change that you make with that project, you will be able to look at it or see it reflected here in Textools. The transaction manager is the same thing that we have here, right? The same thing. The new item viewer, um, this one I haven't fooled around with a lot, but basically just helping you to find whatever you want. Let's say the Isle Vacationer shirt. I select the item and it's going to open it here for me. This is helpful if maybe you are already working on something. A big quality of life improvement that Textools has now is that you can basically pop out any window that you want. So if you were already like working on something here and you were like, oh, wait, what does my Isle Vacationer shirt currently look like? You can just open it here in a different window. The file viewer is more or less the same idea, but this is like if you have the file path, let's say that you're coming from Penumbra, or you are maybe doing or editing something with an Nemesis, something like that, and you want to look at it on Textools, you can just come here, copy the file, and it's going to preview it for you. Um, then we have the full modder viewer. This is a tool that is very helpful if you're working with something very big. Like, let's say, like it's a full mod pack that has installed let's say clothes. Actually, with the aisle vacationer, I can just showcase that very quickly. If you have, you're going to make a mod pack where you want to include the aisle vacationer shirt, and the aisle vacationer restores like the full thing. Then you can open here in more actions and just add to F and V. So it's going to bring it here, and you can do go over every single part that you want added, right? I also want the legs. I'm going to work even in the with the sandals, right? Like I'm going to do all of this. And this is what I want to use in Blender. Now you got it all together and you can just export here. Additional to that, this also lets you, I already did all of this with the Midlander male, but let's say that I want to use it for the Midlander female. So in this case, it's going to change. It is using the model that I have for the Midlander male is different from the Midlander female. So it's not going to look exactly the same. But let's say that for Highlander male, Highlander male is slightly different model wise to Midlander male. So if I want the specific like this mod I only want to make for Highlander male, then I can just change it here, and it's going to give me the body proportions. Um, because in case that you don't know, the Midlander bodies are kind of like the base. At least for Midlander female, it's the base of all of the other female bodies except Lala. Midlander male covers most of the bodies, but it's a slightly different for Highlander male, and it's completely different for Rogadin male, for Hrothgar male, and obviously for Lalafell as well. But all of the other models that are based on the Midlander male are going to change slightly in proportions. Like the Ellison male is a little bit longer. The Aura male has like a smaller waist. And there are slight changes like that with females as well, just not as noticeable. So if you want to work with a specific model, you can do this. But of course, like the recommendation is that if you want it to be available for as many characters as possible, try to work on the Midlanders, because that means that the game is going to resize everything else for you, right? But well, this is just like a little extra info and tip on how to use this. Very, very helpful tool. And after this, we have the racial setting editor, which actually changes the values that I've just told you about. Like the here male, you can see has certain values, and they're going to change for Ellison. And if you change this around, you might be able to edit the bodies for however you want. But I think that for most of us, that's not something that is very relevant if you're making mods. If you're interested in editing bodies, of course, you can use this, but I would say it's not something that is widely explored or used. You probably don't want to touch it if you have no experience in modding, but that's where you can find that out. Or maybe even like compare, like what is the exact difference between this body and this body. You will be able to find it there. Now, with the tools, we got the item converter. The item converter already worked in previous versions of Textools. Now it's just a little bit more powerful. And it's simply just selecting one item, whatever item you want, and then telling Textools move that to this other piece, which is super helpful if you want a specific item like vanilla item that you want to be wearing in the game, but you want it to be replaced by this other mod that you use. Um, the icon search is specifically for if you are working more on like UI stuff for mods. The mod list you have here for cleaning up the mod list or recover a new space. If you have been modding a lot, you might want to do that. And then we got the Dawntrail upgrades. The upgrade Modpack is quite simply just like you select whatever not makeup. You can select whatever clothes that you want and just go like, yeah, sure, open that. And it's going to go over your mod pack. Depending on the on how complicated your mod pack is, the results might vary. But for the majority of the files that are well, for the mod packs that you put here, it's going to just change the textures around as necessary. Um, in case that you're not aware of this, oh look, it already changed it, so now I can just like save it, right? As a new, it gives me the option of saving it as a TTMP, so I can just save it here and it's done. I'm not gonna do that right now though. So if you're not aware, the main changes for the new expansion is that the channels of the textures, actually, let me show you here. These are the different channels of the textures. So, uh, between the different textures that we have, the channels got moved around for the most part. Some channels got added and some things like that, but since the majority of them, or of the changes, just require like putting the green channel in the red channel or switching it from the mask into the normal and things like that. That's basically what the converter is doing for you. So the results are not guaranteed to be perfect every time, but for the most part, they are switching them around so you can use them with the new shaders and so it looks good. But of course, if you are making new mods, you want to take full advantage of all of these changes, all of the PBR textures that we have now, because that will make your mods look much, much better. But for the old mods, it's just doing like the bare minimum to make sure that you can actually look at them and enjoy them in game, even if they are not the best quality they can be, because now we have, well, basically new quality standards for how mods work. But for just, rescuing something that you are maybe very attached to, I think that it's very good to have this kind of quick and easy form to get your um, items back or your mods back. There's an index texture creator. The index textures now are basically what is going to let us use a color set. Uh, Color sets are much, much more complicated. So I feel like this particular tool I want to cover another time so I can also explain how index textures even work. They are quite complex now. So we'll leave it for another time. But, if you have more experience, if you've been doing your studying of the new upgrades, you might want to fool around with it as well. There is a hair texture converter that requires that you enter both the normal texture and the mask texture, which might be named multi or specular for you, at least for the old textures. You have to select both of them, and then it will give you like your updated version of them, the Dawntrail version of it. And then there's also the Diffuse texture creator, which only works for the edits that we, well, all of the eyes now are completely different. So we have a diffuse that basically every single character uses. So you can select all files that, as long as they are not catch lights, I believe you will be able to transform these old um, old old textures that we used to have and now use them in the new text tools. Well, new Dawntrail expansion. For the models, you actually have some very, very strong tools now. Well, powerful tools. You have the option to copy things like here. Let's say that for whatever reason, actually, um, let's say that for whatever reason I want to change the normal vacationer shirt to the Isle vacationer tie front shirt. So I can just come here, copy the model, put it here. Well, if it's not working directly here, I'll just copy it like this. But I have my model first, and then I have my other edited version. So I'm going to just select, copy here, and it tells you here, materials and textures will be copied to destination root folder. Are you, every time that you make big changes like this, they will tell you like, are you sure you wish to continue and discard these changes? Sure. um, because I didn't save my previous model. So I can just move things like this super easy, and it makes exporting things like hair. I think especially hair, it's going to save a lot of time. Um, then the best, I think probably the best tool that Textools has now is the merge models, which it just literally lets you like, I like this top with let's say the visor. So I can just like grab the visor, grab the top, and put them in the same group together. This is not something that you really, like, you can just go grab whatever thing and put it together. Cell already has a video displaying how to use it, but this is going to save so much time of going into Blender just to put two models together. People that want to combine ears and tails, for example, you want to use this tool. It's going to save your life. You might not even need to touch Blender. Like if you had no Blender experience, there is so much that you can do now with text tools that you might not even need to use Blender in a lot of cases. Then we got just the raw file operations, but this is definitely more for people that are familiar with a lot of the different path files. I think that a lot of Penumbra power users will be able to take a lot of advantage of stuff like this. But for the common baby user, I don't think that this is really um, that important. Now, the settings that we have um, for the new version is very similar to the one that we had before, right? You have your directory. You have the directory where you want all of the exported textures and models to be saved. You have your index backups. But I think that in general, this is not something you have to concern with. It's not a bad idea to put your save directory and your modpack directory maybe in an external hard drive, especially if you're going to do a lot of modding, because they can accumulate and they can occupy a lot of space in like my personal experience. And other neat things that we have is when you make a mod pack, it's always going to ask you for the name of the author and if you want to include an URL. So if you don't want to enter that information every single time, you can just set it up in your settings already. And if you are someone that works with a particular race, you can say, I want this to default into uh, this race every time whenever I'm like looking things up and stuff, like it's always going to default when I want to select this particular item. So if you work only with Lala, if you work only or mainly with Hrothgar, you probably want to make that change as well. The import and export settings that are already checked is update Endwalker modpacks, update partial Endwalker modpacks, and compress upgrade textures. Actually, I think I ticked this one. Um, Dawntrail upgraded Endwalker to files to BC. No, this one was already checked. Um, so I don't think that there's any reason to change any of these. These are all quality of life stuff. But if for whatever reason you want to mess around with the original Endwalker files, or you don't want them to get compressed, you can uncheck all of these. Here we have the maximum imported image size. I think that if you are um, well, it would be ideal if all modders try to make their mods as optimized as possible, that we all use no using 4K textures that we don't need, not trying to keep things as light as possible, not just because of the well-being of our own computers, but because with Mayor people are constantly sharing a lot of mods. So it would be really nice if everyone started using like a certain size of textures. But if this is something that bothers you personally and you're like, I don't want to use someone else's mods for whatever reason and have them like be 4K, so you can tell them like, you know what, if I try to work on a mod that someone else made and that person has 4K textures, no, please make them smaller for me, right? Ideal modding etiquette that maybe we will get there someday. The external modeling tool is for if you're going to be using some of the power tools that Textools currently has, that lets you like edit something in your chosen 3D program and then inject it here directly into Textools. Complete export complete skeletons is something that I personally don't like to have checked because I want to be very aware of which bones I'm using every time. I find that with hair in particular that sometimes throws me off, but that's how I work. If you want to always have the full skeleton available for whatever reason, you can check it here. The shift exporter models UVs. This just has to do with the way that the textures are set up in Final Fantasy 14. So Texels already tries to keep this kind of stuff in the right place for you. I wouldn't recommend unchecking this because then you're going to have a lot more issues. And we also have the auto assigned body materials. I believe this one I checked myself because I never use vanilla stuff. So whenever I import something, I want to make sure that it's already assigning it to Bibo or TBSE or whatever it is. This will do it automatically for you if they are in the wrong ID. So I personally like that checked on. Then you have um, the way that the color and well, all of the stuff is shown in the preview modeler. You might have noticed, particularly if you look at faces. Let's say I'm going to do face 3 of whichever, Midland or male, sure. Uh, if you see, and here you have a warning of it, Textools model displays are only an approximation, may not be 100% accurate to in-game visuals. If you export this model and you bring it into Blender, let's say, Blender is going to use this look of the modeler to showcase the colors of the textures. So if you're like, oh, this is too pale, or I want, let's say, I want more here. The hair color is not my favorite for whatever reason. Oh, maybe for example, here the skin race is for here Midlander, but we know that there are like slight differences with the aura and the Highlanders. So if you have, for whatever reason, some preferences that you want to change and you want them to um, reflect certain colors, you will be able to change it here. Um, I think this is the skin color is probably the most helpful one to know to change. Everything else is more like aesthetic for yourself, right? If you prefer certain colors over others. And then the danger zone is called that for a reason. If you don't know what you're doing, you probably shouldn't be messing with it. The Textools branch uh, is the official um, current version that we have. If for whatever reason we start messing with beta things, and you're interested in like experimenting with things that are not considered official yet, you can use that. But I don't think there's any good reason for mothers starting out to use that. So stay on the stable version. And if you know that, for example, you don't want to replace your game files ever, and you're always going to be using transactions, you probably want to check this option just because you always want to have it already and save you the extra step here. Or in occasions where Penumbra is down and you want to change your files directly and see it reflected in the game, then you should default to the unsafe mode. But as mentioned at the beginning of this video, this is not the recommended thing because Textools is not meant to be used like that anymore. But you know, to each his own. If it works for you, if you like it like that, good for you. And well, after this, we have just the help section, which if you are having issues with Textools not I feel like this is not going to be as big of an issue now because we're not messing with direct game files anymore. But if you start having issues with your game, you can come here to like start over, check for problems. If you continue having issues, you can download your index backups. There's a bit of like troubleshooting that you can do with all of these options if you need to. But as I said, ideally you're not going to need it as much anymore. The start over, you probably want to do before Penumbra comes back, or I guess I should say once Penumbra is back, make sure that you don't have anything installed in your game files first, and then you can open Penumbra. You don't want both Textools and Penumbra to be changing mods for you while you are playing. Um, and basically, that's it. This is just the an overview of the menu and all of the different things that you can find in it. I'm going to make a second video that is going to be more focused on how Final Fantasy XIV works in the terms of textures, models, etc. But I hope that this one helped you out if you had no idea where to start. And if you have any questions, you can come in into the Modding 101 server and let us know. We'll try to help however we can. But good luck on your modding journey.